Okay, my name is Gloria Wong, and my affiliation with Hung Parlo is I married the grandson of the owner of Hung Parlo in 1951. His mother came in 1920 something after she married her husband, who is first son of Hung Parlo, and they lived on Northwest Fourth between Everett and Flanders, and they had the owner of Hung Farlo had another business called Yun, which is a store that sold a lot of different things. I'm not sure what it was, but they were busy. And then he opened a restaurant in 1928 for the family to work in. Okay, so we were affiliated with Hung Farlo for quite a few years, and even when some of the chefs opened the new Hung Farlo on 82nd and Division, we still went there to eat. Okay, because the cooks were good friends. Yeah, so we enjoyed Hung Farlo as far as we could remember. The boys enjoyed it. They, I'm, I think my teenage boys really enjoyed the bar that they got to go to. So I was dating the grandson of Wong, the owner, back in high school age, about 1946, 47. And that's where I even heard of Hung Farlo. And it wasn't until I'd never been up to the restaurant, and every time we were on a date, you might say, he dropped me at home, and then he'd have to drive back to Hung Farlo because he had the family car, and the father was there waiting to go home. So um, I got more involved into Hung Farlo after I got married in 1951 to Bruce, and after we came back from Hawaii, he was in the Air Force at Hickam Airfield. And so when we came back stateside, we went, we got more involved in even going to Hung Farlo for dinner or whatever. But at that time, his parents, after Wong Un passed away in 1944, his father became more manager of Hung Farlo. But in 1948, he and his wife moved down to Oregon State, Corvallis, and opened a boarding house for Chinese students because their son was a student there already. So they never came back to Portland until 1971 when he retired. They opened a restaurant at Corvallis called To Yuen with some other Chinese members, and it was a big restaurant. They had a lot of banquets for the different OSU departments, so that it was called To Yuen. Even after he retired from To Yuen, his brother-in-law stayed there and worked until the 90s. And I think that restaurant closed maybe in the late 90s because they had moved up.
Because all
Yeah.
the children all graduated.
Yeah, but actually after after my husband graduated from OSU in '58, we had more dealings with Hung Farlo. They had more family banquets and everything. So that's where we got more into Hung Farlo.
Was Bruce ever in the operator owner of the restaurant?
No, he was an engineer. He opened his own business in forensic engineering. So, no, He only went there to eat.
Was that the wish of his parents to
Oh, yeah.
not run the
Yeah.
restaurant?
No, they all got professionals. His oldest brother was a pediatrician. His other brother was a dentist, and then he opened his Wong's Forensic Metallurgical Engineers business, and so he retired in 2000. But he did all right with his business.
Did you understand whether or not his Bruce's parents, did they see that there's any need for succession? How do they see the restaurant can continue on without the children involved?
Even after when his father moved to Corvallis, his cousin Wilson Wong and his family, they're close relatives too. So he took over for a long time until he retired. But then his son Norman took care of it up to the time that they moved up to 82nd. Yeah, that was the last time.
What happened?
And one of the cooks wanted to open it on 82nd.
Do you
and
remember his
Division.
name?
It was a Wong, but I'm not sure what his first name was. Yeah, but they did all right too. It was an interesting thing. The family banquets came more often when his Wong On's other boys from California and Cleveland came to visit. So we had a lot of family banquets there. And I think in 1928 when he opened Hung Far Lo, their first banquet was for his granddaughter that was born, Joanne Chan. Yeah, so it's been a long time.
My name is Fred Wong, and my connection to Hung Far Lo Restaurant is that my father worked for and with the original owner of Hung Far Lo, Wong On, going back as far as 1910. And through the years, my father was a bookkeeper for Wong On's 3 restaurants in Chinatown. As a matter of fact, in those days, Wong On was like the mayor of Chinatown, and very, very involved with everything going on in Chinatown. Also, I just happened, and my sister too, we both happened to work at Hung Far Lo during our high school years. Well, myself as a busboy, and my sister as a maitre d'. Wong On and my father were very close. They had a lot in common. It's a little history, like Gloria mentioned. Wong On opened Hung Far Lo in 1928, and all from that time on, Sally passed away in 1945, I think, or 44. If you were a Lo Wong and you needed a job, you went to Wong On, and he would hire you as a cook or a waiter in one of his 3 restaurants, because he had 3 restaurants beside Hung Far Lo, Republic Cafe, and a restaurant on Burnside, 4th and Burnside, called the Burnside Cafe, that was owned by the Japanese. And when they left, he took over that business too. So my father was a bookkeeper for all 3 restaurants. As a matter of fact, I had a friend do some research out of Seattle, the government records there, and it showed that my father was working for Wong On back in 1910. So he worked for him and with him for over 30 years. So they were pretty tight. They had a lot in common. But anyway, as I mentioned, in those days, if you were a Wong and you wanted a job, you went to Wong Wong. He would find you a job and you were willing to work. I was born and raised in Chinatown and lived down there for 18 years. I remember that my father would take me when he was going to do his bookkeeping work. He'd do that and I would be out in the dining room, playing or fooling around waiting for him. But that was our connection. He worked with and worked with and for Wong Wong. And my sister and I, we both later on, when we were in high school, worked at Hung For Low. I was a busboy and my sister was what do you call it, maitre d'? Yeah, she had that role. But that's our connection.
How long did you work there as a busboy, and why did you not stay longer?
Oh, I just that's during my high school years. After that, when I started going to college, well, I moved on.
No, I think in my generation and even the people that was older than me, they all came back to Hung Far Low, especially for beef tomato chow mein. They had the best. And they had egg foo young. But those are the two dishes that even when they went out of town and lived out of town, but when they came back to Portland and to Hung Far Low, that was the first thing they would all order. Yeah.
That beef tomato chow mein, I have friends and we can talk about it now. We can't buy it in Portland. No one else makes it like they do. The pan-fried noodles. That was it. Pan-fried noodles. I don't think anybody in Portland knows what kind of noodles that is. Yeah, we kept going there up to the last minute because I moved away. So I left to Hung For Low closed on 82nd.
Did they have the pan-fried tomato noodle dish at the 82nd location?
Well, yeah.
The cooks were the former Hung Far Low cooks too.
Because that's
Nobody else could duplicate
No,
that.
they don't.
Yeah.
They can't cook it that way.
Yeah.
the signature dish.
Yeah.
Was Hung Far Low also equipped with a lounge or a bar?
They were famous for their bar. And they're going up to Hung Far Low. They had a lot of steps going up. And a couple of years ago, there was a calendar that was put out by a gentleman. And Hung Far Low was the November issue, the November month. And the caption to that was Stairway to Death. Because you had to go 2 flights of stairs. And then after you had a couple drinks, you could fall down coming down. That's why they called it Stairway to Death. Yeah. That was a well-known calendar that went out. I gave my copy to a museum in Idaho for Phyllis Wagers. So that's where I sent my articles for her. Yeah.
Well, I remember those steps because being a busboy clearing tables and
Yeah.
that was a piece of cake. But the hard part was that the restaurant was on the second floor, and their soft drinks were downstairs in the storeroom. So we'd have to lug those cases of Coca-Cola, wooden boxes with 12 bottles of Coke in it up the stairs. That's pretty heavy. So I remember those steps, yeah.
There are some stories telling that how Hung Far Low was also a favorite place for students from Reed College to hang out. Did you hear something like that?
I think so. Kenny Cole was one of them. He was a Reed College student, but he grew up in Chinatown too. But he was working there during his Reed College education, and probably during his high school too. Yeah. But I think that's the closest I can remember from Reed College students. Gosh, I think it was my mother-in-law's birthday, and all the uncles, when she came over in the 20s after they got married, she took care of all the kids that Wong had, and the mother, and the she did all the cooking and the cleaning and everything. So she when she got to be 80 something years old, they had a banquet in honor of her, and all the uncles from California and Cleveland, their families all came back because she really raised them up, and they appreciated that. The owners were close with the cooks because I think they were probably Wongs too. So they were they helped each other. But I'm not sure how their finances were.
Fred, do you know anything
No.
about the operation structure?
No, I believe that what Gloria said is correct, especially the later years, from the 1970s on until they closed. Maybe two or three or four would get together and take different roles. Like one would take the dining room, one would be responsible for the kitchen, and be the head cook and so forth like that. But during my time, though, not only myself working there, but I have about 10, 12 friends that have either worked as busboys or waiters all through the years. A lot of them, like the Range Jew was a waiter there, and Richard Coe, some of my other friends were busboys.
I think the owner's kids were working there too as busboys.
Mhm.
Well, I think that anybody that comes to the restaurant should be treated equally and with respect. So I think that's an important thing for any restaurant to be.
Fred?
Well, yes, if they all work hard and stick at it, stick with it, they'll be successful. Because a lot of those people that worked in a handful of restaurant, or any of those restaurants, they were first generation immigrants. They have jobs. They were successful.
Well, I think they were always cordial to whoever came up. And if somebody wanted to start a fight or something, my father-in-law was a good bouncer. Yeah, I think they mentioned
just down
him.
the steps.
Yeah, so he took care of it. Any problems that came up. So
In what way? How is
he either escorted them down the stairs, to avoid any problems.
any word of wisdom that you learned from knowing about Hung Follow, and what kind of adversity that they overcome that you thought that's part of that legacy?
Yeah, we'll just stick with it.
They did a good business, and they had a good bar business, and they solved any problems that came up with that.
You brought us a lot of beautiful artifacts from Hung Follow. These are original ceramics. Can you tell us about what these items are?
What they stand, I think they look like flowers. So I think that comes from Hung Fa Lao, for flowers, and all of them. And I think they were originally hand painted. And this one has, I think, a chicken and, I don't know, is that a rooster? 2 chickens there
Beautiful,
with the
hand
flowers.
painted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then not all of them are the same. And even the rasbos came with flowers on them too. So I think maybe that was a symbol for the restaurant. And
Because
their
it's-
serving dishes even had the flowers on there.
Oh, it's very
Yeah.
elaborate.
Yeah.
You also brought us some larger item.
Yeah.
Tell us about what this is.
I think this is a mold for the moon cakes. And it does say Portland, and Hung Far Low is in there too. It's a heavy mold. Got writing on that. I don't know what that says.
It's Leung Wing Ho. It's the
The
one
owner
that made
it?
the mold.
Oh, is
And
that
then-
his name?
Yeah, it's the shop's name.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then the pastry, put it in here with the sweet lotus flower paste, and then put in here, cover it, and smash it, and bam. And then you have the mooncake, and then you bake it. I've never
Okay.
seen mooncake that big. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's heavy.
It is heavy.
It's very heavy.
But we have these on display at the Portland Chinatown Museum in the Hung Far Low section.
Nice.
Yeah.
You also brought something really big behind you. Can you say something about that?
Oh, I think this is Fa, probably from Hung Far Low. I think maybe this came off from the wall going up the stairs. Didn't they have, I can't remember. But that's been sitting in my fireplace for a long time.
And
But I thought,
fa means flower.
Flower.
Mhm.
And I think that is from the Hung Fa Low.
Very nice. It's solid piece of wood. This is not
It's heavy.
styrofoam.
Yeah.
This is heavy wood.
Yeah.
Then you brought us something very small and very special. Can you say something about this?
Oh, this is what is it? Matchmake, yeah. This is one of the originals too that they had. So, I got this from a lady from the museum in Idaho, who's a friend of ours. She had an extra one, so she sent me this at no cost. So,
Museum
here we
item.
have one too.
Nice.
Okay.
Very nice. I just also want to point out that this menu
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
from
oh, this menu is one of the originals in 1928. And I think chop suey is 50 cents. And shrimp is $1. But the prices have changed.
and then
I don't know what
that's
those say.
Hanfalo.
Hung Far Low?
Mhm.
Okay.
With the Chinese restaurants, with the restaurant of the address in Chinese too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then what about this one?
It's a newer one. I'm not sure what year that is, but it's still cheaper than what it is now. Because chop suey is now $5.
So it must be maybe 50 years later.
But I think chop suey now is, what is it, for $12, $14, $15 maybe? Yeah. So it's still a cheap price.